well do you actually know yourself? This short video is about the type of thoughts that can shine a light on whether you're developing genuine self-awareness when you self-reflect, or whether you're more likely to be sending yourself on an anxiety-inducing goose chase. By the way, my name's Hazel Gale. I'm a former therapist turned author and creator of the stress relief game Betwixt. And I would like you to take a moment to picture these three scenarios. First, imagine that you wake up feeling particularly anxious one morning. What's the very first question you'd ask yourself in order to understand what's going on? Pause the video and write down whatever comes to mind first, because you're going to need your exact wording later. Next, imagine that a colleague in a meeting seems to be acting in a hostile way towards you. You can't ask them about it just yet, so what question do you ask yourself while the meeting continues in order to feel like you're getting on top of it? Again, write your thoughts down. Last scenario, imagine that you're feeling dissatisfied with your work or some other pursuit. To understand this feeling, what's the first question you'd ask yourself? Write it down. So when trying to understand something about ourselves, most of us start with the word why. We wonder, why do I feel this way? Why did I say that? Why aren't I happy in my relationship? Why is honesty so important to me? We ask why because we want to find out the truth. But while this works for external problems like why is my business making less money than it did last year, when it comes to questions about our own personal inner experiences, why tends to lead us away from truth and usefulness by sending us down introspective rabbit holes made of rationalizations. To get a sense of how this happens, let me give you a brief overview of a seminal social psychology experiment conducted in the 70s on the nature of human decision-making. Subjects were stopped in a shopping mall and asked to judge which of 4 pairs of nylon stocking pantyhose, or tights if you're British, were of the best quality. What they weren't told was that all 4 pairs were identical. When they picked a favourite, which they all did, these people attributed their decision to things like the knit, weave, sheerness or elasticity or workmanship of the stockings. Now, of course, these reasons were fabricated, if you'll excuse the pun, but there was something that was influencing their decisions because the choices weren't randomly and equally distributed across the 4 pairs. That factor was recency bias. These identical pairs of tights were displayed equally spaced, hanging from a clothing rack, and moving from left to right. 12% of the subjects judged the first stockings to be of the best quality. 17% chose the second pair. 31% chose the third, and 40% of the subjects chose the 4th most recently viewed pair of stockings. None of them, of course, mentioned this when asked why they'd made their decision. And even when they were directly asked about positioning as a factor, only one said it could possibly have influenced their choice. In other words, when we don't know the true cause of a thought, feeling or behaviour, and most of the time we can't know this because the unconscious mind is absolutely full of information that we don't really have conscious access to, we will make up a reason, buy into it completely, and then even when presented with the real reason, we won't be able to tell the difference between that and our fabrication. And this is exactly what we do with the answers to our why questions. We come up with an answer just for the sake of having one, and anything plausible will do. Then, to make matters worse, we stress over the thing we just made up. Why X? Maybe Z. But why Z? Basically, rather than providing a complete answer, why is much more likely to get us spiraling anxiously through more and more why questions. So why feels productive, even powerful sometimes, but it is not. And in this case, how the hell are we supposed to get to the bottom of personal problems? Well, according to Eurich's research, the 10 to 15% of us who actually qualify as both internally and externally self-aware very rarely use the word why when introspecting. Thousands of interviews with self-awareness unicorns were transcribed, and the word why was uttered less than 100 times total. The word what, on the other hand, was used thousands of times, and notably in the moments when the majority of us would reach for why. For example, when struggling in a relationship, instead of asking, why am I not getting on with my partner, a self-awareness unicorn might ask, what do I need to do differently to improve this relationship? Instead of asking, why am I not satisfied with my job, they might ask questions like, what's important to me about my work? What do I find most enjoyable or meaningful? And what do I need to do to bring those things to the forefront? When trying to understand an emotional problem like anxiety, instead of asking, why am I so anxious? And I think most of us know exactly how that goes. A self-awareness unicorn might ask questions like, what are the specific contexts that trigger my anxiety, and what do those things have in common? What questions tend to lead us towards actionable, specific, or factual information, as opposed to just more why questions and anxious spiraling? But bear in mind that this isn't actually about the word what, and you could easily use the word what ineffectively. What the hell is wrong with me, for example, or what did I do that for? These, if you think about it, are just why questions in disguise. The real reason what tends to be better than why when it comes to self-reflection boils down to the fact that we just don't have the answers readily available, so no amount of navel-gazing will get us there. Personal change happens through movement and action. As human beings, we figure things out as we go. Yes, we'll make mistakes, and our what questions won't always lead us to the right place the first time, but we will find the things that work by getting out there, doing stuff, and learning as we go. And what gets us to do all of that much, much better than why? So my question for you is this. Where in your life do you feel stuck, confused, or discontent? And what are the what questions that you need to ask about that? As always, I hope this helps. Hit follow for more, and if you'd like to take an epic adventure through a magical world in pursuit of mental wellness, then you can download Betwixt, the mental health game. It's a fantasy, text-based adventure app that combats stress and anxiety. Available on the iOS App Store and Google Play.